God's dwelling place on earth. Europeans make much ado about early man living in caves and caverns, whereas according to Genesis, even before the great flood, early man lived in cities such as the one Cain, Adam's son, built. Genesis 4, verse 17. It was after the flood, from the days of Noah to Abraham, that men dwelled in tents. Tents were the coverings of nomadic mankind, while the dead were buried in caves, like Abraham and Elijah. Genesis 23, verse 9, John 11, verse 38. During the time of David, the Ark of the Covenant was a curious piece of furniture that sat alone under the shelter of a tent before David's son, Solomon, built a temple to enshrine it. The Ark of the Covenant was a wooden box overlaid with pure gold. The box was approximately 3 feet 9 inches long by 2 feet 3 inches high and wide. This golden chest had a lid adorned with 2 angels made of solid gold who faced each other. The ark's description is found in Exodus 25. And thou shalt make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half of the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold, of beaten work shalt thou make them, and the 2 ends of the mercy seat. And make 1 cherub on the one end, and the other cherub on the other end. Even on the mercy seat shall ye make the cherubims forth on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubims shall stretch their wings on high, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. And thou shalt put the mercy seat above the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And I shall meet with thee there. And I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubims which are upon the ark of the testimony. Exodus 25, verses 17 through 22. The 2 kneeling angelic figures posted atop the lid of the ark arched their wings over its mercy seat. This is why they are referred to as archangels or archangels. According to the Bible's description, angels have no need of marriage and are male, and these archangels were no exception. Mark 12, verse 25. There should have been a 3rd archangel represented on the Ark of the Covenant, but he fell from his estate. Revelation 12, verses 3 through 4. He was the most beautiful angel of all. Ezekiel 28, verse 12. He was the angel of light, called the anointed cherub that covereth the ark. His name was Lucifer, which means light bearer. Ezekiel 28, verses 14 through 5. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 14. Had he not fallen, there would have been 3 cherubim on the ark. This 3rd cherub would have been represented as an angelic figure that hovered over the 2 kneeling angels, covering them with the glory of God as their wings covered the golden ark. The 2 kneeling angels of gold represented archangels Gabriel and Michael, who are posted in the presence of God. Luke 1, verse 19, Jude 9. The Ark of the Covenant contained the 10 Commandments, a pot of manna, bread that fell from heaven, and Moses' brother Aaron's rod that budded. The presence of God dwelled between the 2 cherubim on its lid called the mercy seat. Levitical priests guarded the ark, but they were ordered at one time to give it to a black man named Obededom for safekeeping. Though he was a member of the congregation of Israel, Obededom originally came from one of the tribes of the uncircumcised lords of the Philistines called Gittites. Joshua 13, verse 3. During the days of the prophet Samuel, Obededom's tribe had kidnapped this ark. According to 1 Samuel 5, verse 9, God plagued the Philistines with hemorrhoids called powls until they gave the Ark of the Covenant back to the Israelis. Obededom the Gittite was a Hamite proselyte, meaning one who converted to the nation of Israel. If a man was an outsider to the camp of Israel and wanted to become an Israelite, he had to undergo circumcision, an extremely painful procedure. This was a matter of great contemplation because it required the cutting away of the foreskin of the man's penis. In King David's day, many proselytes were inducted into the congregation of Israel to serve as David's warriors. Obededom, a descendant of Ham through a sect of uncircumcised Philistines called Gittites, became circumcised and then was allowed into the Israeli congregation. Otherwise, being uncircumcised, this Gittite would not have obtained custody of the most sacred article of Israel's faith, the Ark of the Covenant. Judges 14, verse 3, 1 Samuel 17, verse 26. Here is how the ark came into this black man's care. Amid great celebration, King David was having the Ark of the Covenant transported to Jerusalem on a cart pulled by oxen, while surrounded by people playing instruments, singing and dancing. The oxen stumbled, and a man named Uzzah stretched out his hand to keep the ark from falling off the cart, and God struck him dead. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah. And David was afraid of God that day, saying, "How shall I bring the ark of God home to me?" So David brought not the ark home to himself, to the city of David, but carried it aside into the house of Obededom the Gittite. 2 Samuel 6, verses 9 through 10. David intended to use this black man as a canary to see if the wrath of God would fall on him and his household, as it fell on Israel for David's earlier sin. Later, David was shocked to hear that the ark of God remained with the family of Obededom in his house 3 months. And the Lord blessed the house of Obededom and all that he had. 1 Chronicles 13, verses 10 through 14. Blessings fell on the household of Obededom, who were careful to obey the laws of the Lord. Only the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy contains clues of exactly how blessed this black man's household became, stating, "All these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, the increase of thy kine, and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. The Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. And they shall come out against thee one way, and flee before thee 7 ways. The Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in thy storehouses, and in all that thou settest thine hand unto. And he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. Deuteronomy 28, verses 2 through 13. Obededom found that the blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and added no sorrow to it. Proverbs 10, verse 22. This black proselyte became so blessed that his Jewish king was provoked to jealousy by the blessings that fell on his household. And it was told King David, saying, The Lord hath blessed the house of Obededom, and all that pertaineth unto him, because of the ark of God. So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obededom into the city of David with gladness. 2 Samuel 6, verse 12. King David was so overjoyed to have the ark back in his possession that he danced before the Lord with all his might. In his frenzy, he exposed himself as he rejoiced in his circumcision, the sign that he was in covenant with the God of Israel. David's wife, Michal, was his black-skinned Benjamite queen that became so perturbed at her husband's less than stately behavior that she criticized him, saying, How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovered himself, a flasher. And David said unto her, It was before the Lord, and I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be base in mine own sight. And of the maid servants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor. 2 Samuel 6, verses 21 through 22. Because of her criticism of David's unorthodox praise that was before the Lord, that was the last time she saw her husband's circumcision. For he banished her from his bed, and she died childless. 2 Samuel 6, verse 23. Less than 6 chapters later, unable to contain himself, David entered an adulterous relationship with a married black Gileadite of Canaan he spied bathing. Nevertheless, Obededom experienced the best 3 months of his life when God rained blessings on his family. The Bible gives this commentary on the males of Obededom's household, stating, All these of the sons of Obededom, they and their sons and their brethren, able men for strength for service, were 62 of Obededom. 1 Chronicles 26, verse 8. This black proselyte proved himself a trustworthy steward of the things of God. Therefore, Levite priests requested this black man to be made doorkeeper in the house of the Lord as a guardian of the ark. 1 Chronicles 15, verse 24. During Israel's civil war, the king of Israel invaded Jerusalem, and Obededom the Gittite appears to have given his life in service to the Lord guarding the ark. 2 Chronicles 25, chapter 20, verse 24. Today, another group of black people claim the Ark of the Covenant is in their custody. Africa's Ethiopians claim that the Jews gave them the Ark of the Covenant for safekeeping while the Jews were under persecution in ancient times. If this relic is indeed in their possession, when the Jews, as prophesied, rebuild their temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the Ark will again be brought to Jerusalem amid great celebration. Then, as prophesied, the sacrifices of sheep and goats will resume as in Old Testament times. The Ethiopians maintain they have this Ark of the Covenant in the Ethiopian city of Axum, inside St. Mary's Church, guarded by a monk who allows no one to view it. True or false? We can only wait and see.